Life is an amazing podcast, and it is presented and hosted by myself, Caro, and my sweet dog Sparky. Give it up for him. I hope you're ready. Enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Go For Your Life. And I have here my dear friend, we've known each other for a long time, Jenna. And today we're going to talk about something that we're both very passionate about. It's tigers and especially tiger rescue. Hello, Jenna.
Hi, everybody.
How are you? How are you? So where are you right now? Which city?
I'm in San Clemente, which is in Southern California.
Southern California. Yes. And we're chatting from Amsterdam to all the way to Southern California. That's pretty exciting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is. It's a connection. So we known each other. So let's tell them all our romantic story, Jenna. We know each other from teacher training. You were that crazy woman who was in a tent outside New York in April, and I remember being I arrived there and someone said to me like, yeah, there's this girl, she's in a tent. I was like, which idiot is in a tent right now? And I felt
only one in a tent.
I didn't even meet you then, but I was like, man, this girl, like, I feel for her already. So I think I found you and said, are you in a tent? Do you need a room to stay? And then we just became roommates for the whole teacher training, which was so good. We had the time of our lives. Like, yeah, we really bonded, Jen. It was quite the experience.
Yes, it made teacher training even better. And yes, I was the only one in a tent. The tent froze one of the days that I was there. But I thought I was going to be great, though, because I was all like amped up to do this teacher training as like a sadhu, like living outside, living so simply, which was great until your tent freezes. Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. It was, I mean, we had some great days, but we had some really cold days and wet days. I remember also your tent was really wet and, we had like some crazy rainy days and stuff. So eventually,
yes. I was grateful for the sanctuary for sure.
Yeah. And we had a good time. Like, I mean, you do get like you bond really quick when you're roomies in such a crazy teacher training. Because it was 300 hours, 1 month, just, building everybody up from scratch kind of thing. Like,
very intense experience.
It was an intense experience, yes. And funny enough, you started volunteering not long after that for the big cat rescue in Tampa, and I still have the postcard you sent me from it. It's somewhere here. I just moved. It's somewhere here in with all my postcards, but I still have it, and I was very, very proud of you that you did that. You worked there for how long did you do that?
So I interned there for 6 months, and literally 1 week after teacher training, I went off to Big Cat Rescue.
I remember that.
Which was the plan from the beginning, because I was hoping to bring some yoga to people who really need it, who work very, very hard for these cats.
Mm-hmm. And so you started also, so you were kind of teaching like everybody who was working there in a way, like straight from teacher training.
So straight from teacher training, I started to offer free classes for any of the interns or the volunteers who were interested.
Yeah.
Which was a bit rocky as a brand new teacher.
Well, that's just how it goes. It's a good,
but you have to be brave.
That's it.
To be an activist, we have to be brave.
That's it. That's it. And so, the Big Cat Rescue is run by Carol Baskin, right?
It is.
And she's still there?
She is still there. Big Cat Rescue has obviously seen a lot of changes since this
lovely documentary.
Lovely, like the interesting, interesting Netflix fiasco of Tiger King,
We'll
and COVID-19 happening sort of simultaneously.
Of course,
so the state of the place is a little different now than when I was there. But yes, she's still, as far as I know, in charge.
Because generally, how many tigers are there and how many people are looking after them?
There's at least 50 to 100 exotic cats.
Wow.
And there's usually 10 to 15 staff members, most of them only paid kind of like independent contractors. So very limited paid staff, and then usually 10 to 5 interns in sort of the animal welfare, and then now they have a vet program that also has the same amount of interns.
Okay.
So sometimes there's that many people, but from what I understand now, they had to lay off half their staff because their funding's been cut almost to a third of what they were taking in as far as donations. So most of their staff has been let go, and they don't have any interns because of COVID at the moment.
Yeah, and so you would live there, right? Like when you are working there, you also live there.
So when you do the internship, there's 2 ways. Like you can volunteer where you live in Tampa and you come for your set slotted times. But as an intern, you live there, so it's full time and you work 12 hours.
Did you set up a tent, Jenna? Did you set up a tent?
I upgraded to a trailer. So
oh wow. Okay. Okay. I was like, oh no, this girl, she just was like, oh, I have a tent. I can live in a tent. That's what I was doing that all month. Yeah, totally. Oh my god.
Well, before doing the sort of yoga thing, I had been living at music festivals on and off. So I was very used to living in a tent. It wasn't that crazy for me.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. No, you seem very comfortable in it.
But I upgraded to a trailer, and but I did live with 5 other people, so there's always that interaction of you know, the common living space, which is good.
Yeah. And before we get to this crazy idiot, because I definitely have 500,000 questions to you about your feelings and your thoughts about this Joe Exotic, but first,
one thing to say, to give you just a gauge of the time that I was there. I was there the year before this was filmed.
Okay.
So it was. I knew a lot about this before sort of Netflix and other people's input was involved.
Because let's jump back in time. Like you and I are there. We're sharing a room. It's all romantic. We are like falling in love with each other because we did. I know we both have husbands.
We did.
We both have husbands now, but we're in love with each other like for life. Let's just face it.
It was love at first sight.
I just love you so much.
That's
I love
how
you.
It was.
I love you so much. And then also, I mean, I have a history with tigers as well, as you know. So, you know, like we also have the tiger love together, very much, you know, holding on to that together as well. But let's jump back in time. So you did your teacher training, then you went to Tampa. And so how did you know about them? Like, how did you get involved? Tell us.
So for me, this is, okay, I'm going to try and sum it up as quickly as possible. I went farming after years of being a fashion designer and kind of doing a completely different thing, and decided that I had to go back to my first love, which was animals. And through this, I wound up going back to school to get a zoology degree because I wanted to work hands-on, because woofing, I worked with farm animals hands-on, and really enjoyed that experience. And felt like that was like my place, of course, with the animals. And from there, I knew I wanted to work with big cats. So they needed us to have a certain amount of experience before you could intern there. So I interned at a zoo first, like loved everything about it, but knew that the zoo was wrong. Like something about it didn't feel right, even before I had really a full awareness of anything, you know, as far as that goes. And I knew instinctually, obviously, there's something wrong about keeping animals in bars, but it's a hard thing because, you know, these guys are already there. What to do with them now? But anyway, from there, I wanted to definitely work for a sanctuary because I felt like that was much more my message and what I was striving for. So, of course, I did some research and Big Cat came up and I was like, this is the internship. I wanted more than anything. I kind of devoted everything to it. So I flew to Florida for a few interviews because you have to interview before you get selected. And then from there, I somehow timeline wise, it kind of was crazy that I would go straight from teacher training to Tampa.
Well,
but that tends to be the flow of my life.
Yeah. I don't know. It's really like, I think it's an amazing thing.
It is. And it was nice that it lined up that way in the sense of like, I could really share this vulnerable place that I was in such a crazy vulnerable place for these animals and experience. And also kind of the way to kind of go back into the world in an interesting sort of surrounding as opposed to just my life before teacher training. The re-immersion was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And were you drawn, like, so you're saying, like you, like all the things that you were doing and how you were like, you were studying and then you ended up in a zoo and stuff. Was there something about big cats and tigers that always, were they your kind of like your favorite animals always or something, or how?
I am the cat lady. All cats. I have 2 now. I've rescued one before, but like when I was little, I wasn't allowed to have a cat. Yeah. So any cat I saw was like everything. My first like visual memory is of like a cat, and I was just mystified by it. I thought it was the most like magical creature I had ever seen in my life. And just like I've always kind of looked at cats almost as gods. So it's kind of an interesting thing to say that, but that's
that could be. I'm right there with you.
But honestly, for me, it's also now that I've developed and gotten older, it's more like this sort of, they remind me of being spiritual, these like very spiritual beings. So I feel very elevated around them. So for me, cats, have always been the number one thing. And then the minute I went woofing, we went to Busch Gardens and we went to some of the bigger zoos, and I got to see people like interact with big cats. And that's what's interesting about big cat rescue and sort of learning how there's, both sides to it. It's very attractive to be around these cats, but like how bad it really is for them is very important to know too. So for me, once I started to be around them and understand that people could like interact with them on a more, I don't know, physical hands-on, but just like being around them on a easier to connect level because they're closer to you. Was something that I was like, I have to do this. This is my calling. I want to do this so badly. So for me to be able to be around cats like that, it's like a dream come true.
Yeah, because let's be really clear to people that, because this is how I see it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Big Cat Rescue really is a sanctuary. This is a place where tigers are happy. They're not being used or abused or entertained or any of that shit. They really are there to have a good life. They're being looked after, and there's very little interaction with human beings for them, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. It's very important to say that, number one, I'm very saddened by how they were portrayed in Netflix because I don't think it was very truthful. I don't think they did the worst job in the world, and I don't think they were trying to necessarily portray it the way it came off. Maybe. Like, I'm not trying to point a blame by any means, but just from my personal experience of having lived there versus what I saw, I felt like it was very exclusive. Like, they just picked what they wanted to show, They didn't show how big the place actually was, which I think is the first most important thing to say. They never showed that the cats were cared for in a way of what was good for them. Like, we didn't put cats on display in a way to entertain people. There was no, like, shows or trainings for people or interactions or touching or anything like that. It's more that, like, giving people a guided tour was our ability to give our information to people about what is actually going on with this horrible black trade market and some of the other sideshow zoos and some of the other bad sort of places for these animals to be. Whereas this place really cared for them and their well-being. Like, we would move a tiger if it was sad by a certain surrounding. If it dealt with life better being next to this cat, we would move it closer to this cat. Like, we really cared about every single thing. We had expert vets coming to look at them all the time. These cats were really cared for. The food quality was not like what you saw on Netflix or anything, and it's very sad for Big Cat Rescue to even remotely be put in a category with those other places because it's not the same. No, regardless of right or wrong, it's not the same. It's just not fair.
No, absolutely. And also, for another important thing. I mean, another important fact for people to know is that there is more captured cats, tigers in the U.S. alone than they are in the wild globally. So
in just the state of Texas, there is more tigers in backyards right now than there are in
nature. Yeah, which is of course wild. One of the most saddening and most heartbreaking things to learn, but it's a fact. And another thing, so the tigers and big cats that do end up at Big Cat Rescue, where are they coming from? Do they come from abusive situations, or like what? How do they get there?
The majority are pets, but they also come from roadside zoo attractions, some failed sanctuaries, so to say, but mostly personal pet collections. And the honest truth is everyone thinks, oh, it's so cute when it's a baby, but then when it becomes a